Mr. Happy Living here, and I'm happy to be broadcasting from WITV7 in the beautiful Queen City, Charlotte, North Carolina, USA. Hey friends, will you join me for just a minute and imagine how amazing you'd feel living the unique and distinct life you were put on this planet to live, doing work you love, with people you love, and places you love, and all the while creating something of real value for others. That's what I call a life of significance. And I can tell you, it makes a very happy life. And so can my friend Keith Smith. He's here to share his unique and distinct journey to his life of significance. But before we bring him on, I'd like to share a poem that we created to thank him for being our guest star today. It's called Rebuilt in His Name, and it goes like this. Once lost in darkness, caught in the game, a badge, a secret, a life full of shame. But the fall wasn't final. It lit up the way, a path to redemption and a brand new day. Through fire and trials, through lessons and pain, Keith found his purpose, broke free from the chain. Now he speaks with power, with truth, and with grace, lifting others to rise in their place. So listen in close, let his story be told of failure, redemption, and courage so bold. On something significant, come hear God's mighty claim, unshaken, redeemed, rebuilt in his name. Hey, Keith, welcome to the show.
Wow, thank you, thank you. And I don't know that I've ever had an introduction like that, Matt. That was absolutely amazing. Wow, well put together. Yes, thank
Very
you.
good. Very good. So tell the audience what you're doing these days to make your mark of significance on the world.
Well, these days, I apply the 3 F's to my life: faith, family, and fun. Faith
Ah,
first and foremost, family comes after that, and anything fun. And fun for me is leading people. Whether I'm doing it on my job, I'm in leadership, and I have a team that I get to lead on a daily basis, but also to leading people, uh, one, to Christ, but secondly, people who don't know how to navigate out of a disastrous situation. I enjoy leading them through my speaking engagements, which I do, motivational, life changing speaking, and also through my book, Built for the Rebuild. And
mhm.
then I also do a series on social media called the Late Night Coffee Session. And I really
Mhm.
enjoy doing those because I tell a story from my life or about life, and I tie it to a message of hope. And the feedback I get from that is just great. So, man, just these days, I'm just really looking to God to continue to propel my life forward as He has done so far.
Very good. All right, Keith, now let's do a little mathematics so our friends all around the world can get to know you through our happy formula. It's
Okay.
very simple, but it's a powerful formula that goes like this. Power plus purpose equals happy. So let's start with power. What are your personal practices for building up all the power that you need to get things done, whether it's physically, mentally, financially, spiritually, emotionally? In other words, Keith, what do you do on a regular basis to create the power you need, take excellent care of yourself and your loved ones, and still have plenty left over so you can be a giver to others?
Well, the first and foremost, the center foundation of everything is my relationship with Christ.
Hmm.
After that, I asked him for direction on, how to handle the financial hardships of my life, how to get
Hmm.
out of things, how to continue. Me and my wife, we have a gym here at home, and we enjoy working out together.
Right.
Getting up into the 50s, you really got to take care of your body and your mind. But really, another thing besides that is I like to keep life simple. I like to focus on small details, build
Hmm.
off of those things, and just, that's where I generate my power from. I choose my battles. Me and my wife just had that conversation. I try to choose my battles.
Hmm.
That's where I receive my power from. Now, after you said power is what,
So
man?
power. So we'll get to purpose, but before we get to
Okay.
purpose, let's discuss my favorite power generating concept. Let's stay there for a minute. It's
Okay.
called a Kaizen state of mind, and it's this beautiful Japanese idea that small incremental improvements add up over time to yield great big results. And I
Mhm.
love it, Keith, because it's based on mindset, not circumstance. Kaizening life is knowing there's always something I can do better tomorrow than today. And it creates an optimistic, gentle, but very powerful and continuous uplifting of my day, of my life, day after day after day. So, Keith, how does Kaizening your life help you increase your power to continuously become more so you can continuously give more?
Well, it's the same way as on my job in leadership. I teach my team the pie method. It's sort of the same thing. I'm not going to feed you the whole pie at one time because you'll get full, hungry, or choke on it,
Mm-hmm.
and you won't eat anymore. So I take one slice at a time. I
Mm-hmm.
build off. I believe in building off positivity.
Mm.
We find out the things we're doing good. We build off of those. Over
Yep.
time, I figured out that cancels out a lot of negatives that
Yes,
you don't
sir.
have to spend your resources and time trying to correct. So yes, I take small steps, control first thoughts that come in my mind, and let them try to generate the outcome by being positive with it.
Very good. Okay, now let's get into purpose. That's the second element of the happy formula. And I've discovered that major life transformations, that great big discovery of purpose often comes from devastation, addiction, abuse, disease, death, disaster. Something awful strips a life to its core, resulting in a big and often unexpected change. However, in my book, Turning Inspiration into Action, I share the transformational process that I've used to discover the purpose of my life using inspiration.
Mhm.
So tell us your story, Keith. Take us back to that life-altering devastation of January 2009, and walk us through your fall and the period of redemption and then restoration, and ultimately being obedient when you realized that God had a bigger purpose for you. So we want to know, what was the process like and how did it change the course of your life? So can you walk us through that and take us through each one at a time, beginning with the fall in January 2009.
Well, actually, Matt, the fall came before
Okay.
January 2009.
Okay.
Um, I had struggled with addiction for about 8.5 years.
Hmm.
I kept it hid. I have a section in my book called "The Enemy Within," the things we're not comfortable talking about, and
Hmm.
how they'll create an enemy in our life, and it overtakes it, where the enemy makes you think you're in control of something that you're not. Being in law enforcement at the time, I felt like that I didn't need to talk to anyone. I can handle anything. And
Hmm.
so the fall came actually June 13th, 2008. It was Friday the 13th, and I'm not talking
Oh,
about the
goodness.
Voorhees movie. I mean, this was another movie of nightmare proportion. That's when it all came to an end. The state law enforcement division had been doing an investigation on me because of the addiction. I started making some bad choices with my power and authority. I
Hmm.
started helping guys move drugs in the community to support my own habit. And not only that, started moving it myself. And
Hmm.
snowball effect took place. But June 13th, 2008, a SLED SWAT team, state law enforcement division, about 30 members deep, had been doing an operation on me called Operation Dark Blue.
Oh,
And yeah, it's pretty big when they name a whole operation after. And that was my fall. I can
yeah.
remember them coming after me and telling me to get down in the parking lot of the hotel that they had set the operation up in. And all I could see in that, and there was a pothole when they told me to get down. Now, mind you, I was the one telling people to get down on the ground
Hmm.
prior to this. So this was a new experience for me. And I remember looking in that pothole and it had a little bit of water in it. And all I could see at that time was my three daughters' face. And I knew my life immediately was going to change. Uh,
Hmm.
how it was going to change uh, is part of the great story about this. I'm thinking all the negative thoughts, uh,
Hmm.
but then uh, was the first time I seen God show up in this situation.
Hmm.
That's when they were walking me into the same courtroom that I used to walk into to send people to prison, but this time they were sending me.
Hmm.
I received a 25-year sentence that day.
Oh,
Um, 10 years for the drugs, 10 years for a weapon charge, and 5 years for a weapon charge, and 10 years for misconduct in office, because I was an officer, head of investigations, on my way to be the chief of police. That was already in the works for me to move up, and it all came crashing down. But then the judge said, I'm going to give you these 25 years, but I don't think that you need to do the whole 25. You're a good man. You just made some bad choices. You've come in here and you've owned up to them. So they ran my time 10 years concurrent, which means I had to do an 8.5-year sentence out of that 10 years. So
Wow.
that's that. The fall came on June 13th, 2008. And actually looking back now, January 2009 wasn't part of the fall. It was part of the climb forward.
Okay, so take us to redemption and restoration.
Well, redemption came, I was detoxing. It took me about a year to detox on my own. I didn't have clinical help like most people. It was rough, I'm telling you. But my redemption came April of 2009. I can remember we were in a bad storm. I was in my cell. I was on protective custody at the time, so I was locked down 23 hours out of the day with nothing.
Goodness.
And,
I hadn't thought about that, because you were in prison with people you put there.
Total solitude for the first 2 years like that. So I remember a bad storm came, Matt. It knocked the power out. It was about 100 degrees in that cell. No air, the backup generator didn't come on, and I just remember thinking it can't get any worse than this. And I was going through a divorce from my first marriage. I'd lost my career, my home, my children, my family. Nobody was contacting me. I was absolutely isolated from everybody and everything. And I remember crying in the floor. And that's the only time in my life I can never remember asking God to kill me. I can't do this. But God said, I'm not going to kill you. I'm going to give you purpose. So something inside of me kept saying, open your Bible, but I wouldn't do it. But finally, after about 5 or 6 times of just crying my eyes out, the lights came on. And I said, here's the power. So I got on my bunk, I opened the Bible, put it on the end. Don't know where I opened it to, Matt. I just continued to cry with my face in my hands. Something kept saying, read your Bible, read your Bible. I looked over to the left side of the page finally, and it was open to Isaiah 41, 9 and 10. Now, the first part of 41, where it says, to whom I've taken from the ends of the earth and called you out of the nation, that was on the page before. Only half of verse 9 and verse 10 was there. The first thing I read, Matt, was, you are my servant. I have chosen you and not cast you away. Do not fear. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will uphold you with my right hand of righteousness. At that moment, I can never say I'd ever heard God's voice. I'd ever heard God speak to me, but I knew it wasn't an audible voice, but it was something inside. I knew God was speaking to me. For some reason, I didn't feel like it was punishment anymore. God was bringing me through preparation. And I remember standing up, beating my chest, say, okay, God, I got 8 years left to do, or about 8 years. I said, if that's you speaking to me, let's do it. So finally, that moment was when my redemption started. My mindset changed. I started getting built for the rebuild, and I didn't even know it. I started dwelling more in the word and building relationship with God, and it was me and him in that cell, and it was wonderful.
Yeah. And that takes me to the obedience stage. So it's one thing to hear what you're supposed to be doing. It's another thing to be obedient to it. So tell us a little bit about, from there, how your life started to change, and how you define and how you feel about obedience to God.
Well, my biggest question then when I started growing closer to God is, God, how am I going to work for you? How am I going to draw my purpose in if I'm always compacting this cell for 23 hours out of the day? How am I going to impact other lives than just the people around me? So I prayed over it, and it was put in my spirit to challenge the state to come off of protective custody. And go on to a regular yard, prison yard.
Mm.
It took me about 6 months, but I finally won my case. They made me sign a waiver saying if anything happened to me because of people that I put in prison, they wouldn't be responsible. And I went to a regular yard. When I finally got that regular yard, man, God started to use me in ways, but not until I got on the Operation Get Smart team. Um, I got
Mm.
a whole big story about how I got on this team. It is the most prestigious program that South Carolina Department of Corrections has. And I made it onto that team and got to travel out of the prisons on a daily basis,
Wow.
share my story
Wow.
all across this state to over 350,000 people.
Wow, that's great. So I want to ask you one question, because when people are stuck in overwhelming situations, in various in life or in prison or whatever the case may be, when you decide to do something, so like you said, you decided in your lockdown that you were going to petition the state, and it took you 6 months. But as soon as you made that decision, didn't your life start to pick up? That was purposeful. So now every day during those 6 months, I'm sure you wanted to go faster, but you had already changed because you were on a mission.
Well, it's kind of like I already knew God was in the mix and I was coming off. So I
Mm.
didn't worry about the time frame, Matt. I just worried about building with him and start preparing things for my tool belt for when I went out of there onto a regular prison yard. I didn't know I was going to be on the Operation Get Smart team, but I did know already that God was going to use me to impact the men around me. And I don't have time to tell you all the stories
Yeah, yeah,
of
yeah,
how God did that. It's amazing. Some of them are in the book, but it was like my mind immediately went to start preparing for the outcome instead
yeah,
of worrying about
yeah,
the process.
yeah. That's great. And and we don't want to tell all the stories because we want people to buy your book.
Mhm.
So that's wonderful, Keith. Thanks for sharing all that with us. Now let's take a quick commercial break so our sponsor can spread a little love with our audience.
Mhm.
Are you ready to transform your life? At happyliving.com, we've discovered 4 keys to help you live with purpose, joy, and significance. Unlock your truth with the Happy Quiz. Unlock your happy formula with inspiring stories from the Something Significant Show. Unlock your roadmap to happiness with our free ebook, Making Your Mark of Significance. And unlock your inspired life with our life-changing e-course, The Philosophy of You and Your Inspired Life. This is your time to shine. Go to happyliving.com now and click Unlock the Power of You. Unlock your power. Live your best life. happyliving.com.
And we're back, and this is the Something Significant Show, and I'm your host, Matt Gersper. And my special guest star today is Keith Smith. He's a dynamic speaker, author, and co-founder of In the Gap Motivational LLC, where he empowers others to rebuild their lives with faith and resilience. A former police officer whose addiction, corruption, incarceration, and redemption shaped his journey, Keith now shares his powerful testimony to inspire change. His book, Built for the Rebuild, is a guide to purposeful living after life's hardest falls. Keith, I love what you're doing, and I think you're going to love this article that I found called The Science Behind the Power of Giving. It says that the act of giving itself can be a gateway to discovering your reason for being on the planet. The science tells us that giving our time and talents and treasures is a powerful pathway to discovering purpose and overcoming difficulties and finding fulfillment and meaning in life. So I updated our formula. Power plus purpose plus giving equals really happy. So how about you, Keith? Has giving your time, talents, and treasures been a pathway for discovering your purpose and for getting through overwhelming grief and darkness and for bringing real meaning and light back into your life?
Well, I think for me, the giving of my time, the giving of the pain of my life to others so they don't have to go through it, or helping them address situations. And I think the giving is what's really, really unlocked a lot of doors that would have been shut to me due to my past experiences. Um, I think giving is an essential as your faith because, what, Christ would tell his disciples, don't bring anything. You're not going to need anything. You're giving yourself that others will take care of you. Well, for me, I just think that not being selfish with my pain, not trying to hold it in or being
Mm,
ashamed of it, and being able to tell it on a daily basis or speak about it every time I go back or go out to speak, or every time someone opens the book. I think that's really, God honors that of
mm,
giving. And the hardest thing to give, it's easy to give money if you have it, but it's
mhm,
hard to give away your pain for people.
mm.
I think it's the
Yeah,
hardest part.
yeah. That's really good. I think that's the first time we got that answer about giving away pain. That's very good. And the science agrees with it. It says that giving to others brings real meaning to our lives. And the fourth element of our definition of significance, which we say doing work that creates value for others, that confirms that you're giving your pain away creates value for others. But there's something more to it than just the giving, Keith. And I believe that the real magic of life comes when you're giving from living in your purpose, because it creates profound joy, not only for those receiving, but for the giver too, because your purpose comes from God. So now, Keith, the audience and I would like to know how it makes you feel to be purposely living your life and giving to others through the work you were put on this planet to do, and the people all around you have taken notice. So sit back, my friend, open your heart and have a listen to what people are saying about the impact that you're making on their lives by finding the magic of giving from living in your purpose. One person said, Keith's been broken. He's lost everything, yet he still smiles and glorifies God with his words and his life. Another said, his story is a great testimony to what happens when you truly turn yourself over to God. And another said, he's always been a great guy, but with God on his side, he's simply amazing. And one more, Keith Smith is the most influential speakers I've ever had the opportunity to witness. Others said his testimony has the power to alter the course of many lives. He uses personal experiences to lead others to find their purpose. He makes the impossible seem possible. He makes you think and reflect. He's inspirational, educational, motivational, awesome, powerful, outstanding, authentic, passionate, charismatic, engaging, empowering, a phenomenal speaker, understanding, compassionate. God has big plans for his life. God gave him the talent for public speaking. He leaves audiences enthused, elevated, and enlightened. His book is groundbreaking and life transforming. It should be read by everyone struggling with life. I love all the stories in his book. My life is definitely better for the wisdom I received from his book. One said, Aunt Doris is smiling down on his book. She loved you. And then this one said, his book will be a blessing to anyone who reads it. I've only known Keith for a short time, but I've already gained an awesome brother in Christ. He's truly a blessing. And finally, this person said very simply, God's power is in his life. So Keith, how does all that incredible love make you feel?
It's overwhelming because, to hear it in totality, it'll humble you. But all glory goes to God, Matt. I'm just humbled and grateful that I'm a vessel for him to use, and that everything they're saying about me goes to him, because without him, there wouldn't be any good in my life. There would be no redemption at all.
Yeah.
So, wow, that's just simply amazing.
Yep. And that's it, folks. That's what this show is all about. We're here to encourage you, our listeners, to find that purpose and that magic in your lives. It's available for each of us. That's what I believe. And it comes from this great big happy circle. Giving your time, talents, and treasures is a powerful pathway for discovering your purpose. And giving from living in your purpose brings profound joy to your life and to the lives of those around you. So it seems that giving leads to purpose, and giving from purpose leads to joy. So Keith, to capture the entire exponential power of our happy formula. I'm going to tweak it just a little bit more. Power times purpose times giving equals happy to the third power. And that's really, truly, deeply happy. Does that sound about right to you, Keith?
That sounds exactly right. Love that formula.
Very good. All right, let's wrap things up with a lightning round. I love the power of words and the capacity for great quotes to change lives. So I'm going to read a few of my favorites and ask you to tell us what they mean to you and give us the first thing, not the first word. Sometimes people get confused, but the first thoughts that come into your mind, Keith, because we call this a lightning round. Ready?
Yes.
Here we go. From Psalm 147, verse 3. He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds.
When I hear that, it makes the purpose of being broken all the more redeemable. Like there's a purpose in being broken because God is going to draw close to you.
Yeah. This is from Viktor Frankl. He said, when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves.
The first thing that came to mind is when you can't change a situation, you got to change the outcome by changing your mindset of how you're viewing that situation. I try to find the positive in anything, no matter how bad it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And your life has taught you to do that, right?
Absolutely.
This is from Romans chapter 8, verse 28. And we know that all things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to his purpose.
Wow, that's a good one. I'm going to just say that everything that I went through was worth it. Everything, every tear I shed, everything that I lost out of my life had purpose. I didn't see it at the time, but God already had an outcome for it. It's our safety net.
Yeah. And what makes me think of that in your story is that when you're called according to his purpose and you're living, you're being obedient, that's when that all happens, right? It's that obedient stage to say, I can't understand it, but I'm yours.
Yep.
This is from C.S. Lewis. He said, you can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending.
To me, that's the back against the wall mentality. You can't change anything behind that wall, but any step you move forward is a step in the right direction. Because if we're looking backwards, we're never moving forwards. We can be standing still, and that's okay if we are, but let's stand still and still look forward so we can take that next step.
Yep, and then you started that step on that cell floor when you were in isolation and saying, I need to get out of here because I got work to do.
One of the greatest moments of my life, but I didn't know it then. I thought my life was ending, but it was just beginning. Yeah.
Oh, mercy, that's right. This is from Mother Teresa. She said, it's not how much we give, but how much love we put into giving.
I think of the story in the Bible where it was said that the lady that gave the 2 mites, she gave all she had, where others gave out of their abundance. And it just comes down to, it's not about how much we're given of wealth and worth. It's about how much we're given in the totality of ourselves, or we're giving everything that we have for the purpose and the mission of Christ.
And you mentioned it earlier in our conversation about it's easy to give money if you have lots of money, because there's no love attached to that. There could be. I mean, if that money is loaded up with love, that's awesome. But if it's just to meet a quota or just to look good or whatever, that's what Mother Teresa's talking about, and that's what you were talking about when you say you're giving your pain, right? That's all you have, and yeah, very good. All right, Keith, this is our show anchor. It's from Goth, and he said, whatever you can do or dream you can do, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. Begin it now.
Say it one more time, Matt.
Yep. It says, whatever you can do or dream you can do, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. Begin it now.
I devoted 3 chapters of my book to dreams, because I think people that comes through a hardship or painful situation, we lose that ability to dream. And once you start dreaming, you can see it. And you got to have the boldness to walk out of the fear into the dream, into that vision. And that was a tough step for me, but God let me know along the way, he's here and we're going to get to it.
Awesome. All right, Keith. Well, let's close it out here. Folks, now it's your chance to be a giver too. If you can hear my voice and you were inspired by today's show with Keith Smith, please share a little love with our fabulous broadcast team by giving what you can to WITV7. They're a 501c3 charity on a mission to educate, empower, and encourage. They do good works with your kindness. Keith, I love your courage, not just to face your past, but also to transform from darkness into a testimony of light, inspiring others to rebuild after their fall. And I admire your dedication to helping people live with faith and resilience. Through your speaking and your book, you prove that restoration through redemption is always possible. And I'm super happy, my friend, that you've shared your bold, transformative, and purpose-driven spirit on our show today. Will you please take a moment and share any parting remarks you'd like to leave with our audience?
Yes. I really, all I can think about is the formula that you gave. And it's so amazing. So I want to give a formula to everyone as well. And it's when I go out and speak, especially in prisons, you know, people ask me, what is my secret to success? Well, number one was build a relationship with God, first and foremost. But after that, I used to ask people in prison, can you see, do you plan your goals from here? And they say, yes. Well, tear them up, because you will never see what God has for you from your current situation. I just stated in a video the other night, and it was to create a vision of greatness, you got to be able to see it from the front porch of disaster. Meaning you can't wait till you come through a situation. You got to be in it and see the outcome and strive towards that. You'll never do it unless you have a basis foundation with God himself. And secondly is, if you're always going to get sidetracked by the negativity, you'll never get there. So you got to keep your eyes focused on it. And your situation may take a long time to change, but guess what? In that pain you're going through, God always connects your pain to your purpose. I have a section in the book, revisit your pain. You want to find your purpose? Start revisiting those places that's most fearful for you. Find it there.
Very good. Thank you for that, Keith. And I also want to thank WITV7 for hosting and promoting our show so we can keep interviewing inspiring guest stars like Keith and reaching folks just like you ready to create your own extraordinary lives. And most especially, thank you, viewers and listeners. You'll find links to social media and all things Keith Smith. Find him, friend him, join his late night coffee sessions, and buy his book. And after you've read it, please give him a heartfelt review. You'll find it all in our show notes. From me to you, dear friends, I love you, and I want you to be really, truly, deeply happy too. So don't wait. Head on over to happyliving.com right now and click Unlock Here to start discovering the life you were meant to live, a life filled with purpose, joy, and true significance. And as you unlock your truth and your formula and the roadmap to your inspired life, take a moment to think about what we can do together, you and me, to improve the happy of your world one person at a time. Until next time, I'm Matt Gersper. You are awesome, and this is the Something Significant Show. And we're out.